Your obligations are chains that are holding you in bondage. Did you know that? If you're ready to break through from that bondage, I've got 4 steps that I want to share with you to help you prioritize yourself while not alienating other people. This video is a wake-up call, okay? If you're tired of feeling like you are parenting adult, or maybe you are just sick and tired of having to put out fires that you didn't even start, this video is definitely something that is going to help you. The tips that I'm sharing with you in this video will 1000% help you prioritize yourself, but it will also ensure that you don't have the guilt because you alienated all the people around you. Okay, so if that is something that you're interested in, I want you to stick around because you're going to learn what happens when you don't fill your cup first. You're also going to learn some questions that you can ask yourself when identifying the right boundaries that you need to set with people. And you're going to hear me talk about communication quandaries to avoid. And then lastly, I am going to share with you the most important thing you need to do when you are starting this new process of prioritizing yourself so that you don't alienate other people. All right, if that is something that you feel you need in your new year, definitely keep watching until the end of the video, but make sure you're subscribed to the channel because there will be more of this goodness coming down the pipeline. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna grab my notes so that I can speak intelligently on this subject. The first thing you need to do is know what you need to fill your cup, okay? What do you need? If you don't fill your cup first, what happens is people drain you. They will suck you dry because you don't have enough to give. You don't have enough in your cup to support both yourself and the people who are trying to suck you dry. Your energy is drained and your desires are squashed because you just don't have what you need to even go after them. You also lose yourself because you're so busy helping everybody else. You've allowed them to drain your cup. You don't even have the time, energy, nor inclination to practice any self-care because you're just exhausted. You lose your ability to take care of you because you're so busy taking care of other people if you don't know what you need and how to fill your own cup. You're gonna probably sacrifice your own interests. You're gonna stop enjoying those personal things that you like so much. You're going to stop enjoying personal connections. You won't be able to handle them because you'll feel everybody's trying to suck stuff out of you. The other thing that happens if you don't fill your own cup is you end up starting to drain other people, right? You have to have the energy, right? So what do? You start relying on other people, telling other people the problems. Every time you're around them, you're complaining, you're whining about something. And I've done it myself, so I know it happens. You don't want to do that, right? We don't want to suck the life out of other people because we know what it feels like to have this life sucked out of us. And so if you don't know how to fill your own cup, if you don't know what you need, these are the things that can happen. I wrote this down because it's so important. If we don't practice self-care and find healthy ways to meet our needs as individuals, we tend to have less energy, complain more, drag our feet, feel more resentment, and criticize ourselves and others, all of which is a drain on the people around us. Number 2 thing, I want you to learn how to identify your limits and your non-negotiables. Again, if you don't understand your limits and your non-negotiables, then people will constantly overstep those limits. You will lack the communication skills, the words to set the boundaries in the first place, to limit the amount of access people have to you. So you have to identify these things. What are those limits going to be? And where are those avoid at all costs, non-negotiable areas of your life? What is required to meet with you on a personal basis in real time? Like, what are the thresholds that have to be met in order for people to have access to you? Are you able to say no right? When you need to say no. Do your expectations need to be managed, or do you need to manage the expectations of other people? Maybe your expectations haven't been communicated, and so therefore people don't even know that there is a boundary. So is that some area that you can control in setting your limits and understanding your non-negotiables? What are the actions or attitudes that are just intolerable to you? Sometimes that will get people off your plate altogether when you identify that you just don't want to be talked to that way, or you don't like the way this person or that person treats you. That is setting a limit and creating those non-negotiables, but you again have to manage the expectations by communicating them. So after you've identified what those limits and non-negotiables are, now it is time for you to communicate what you need to make it all work. So here is, as circumstances arise, you don't have to make this huge announcement or send an email out and say, I'm no longer going to allow these things to happen in my life. No, as certain situations arise, you can communicate your need for adjustment at that time. And I want you to learn how to communicate effectively, which I talk about a lot here, and we'll be talking about even more as we get into some of the leadership content that I'm going to be sharing with you. But it's really important for you to identify your communication style, but also identify how other people communicate in your space, so that when you speak to them, you know that you are getting your point across. You know that they're able to absorb the information that you are trying to share. So you want to make sure that as you communicate these new needs, these new limits, these new non-negotiables, you're doing so in a very concise and effective way. The next thing is to model this behavior. As you communicate these limits, non-negotiables, right, and boundaries, model it for them. You know, treat others the way you want to be treated so that they can see what you mean. That is another way to actually communicate the limits and boundaries that you've identified in the previous one. And then the last thing you can do here, you need to strongly enforce these new limits, boundaries, and non-negotiables, okay? The last thing I'll say here, the most important thing that I mentioned to you earlier that I truly believe is going to help you. This is so important. It's the most important thing, I think, as you begin to prioritize yourself, but not alienate other people, is to give yourself some grace. There are going to be periods when people get upset with you because they're no longer able to have the access they had before. They recognize that you are setting boundaries, that some of the things that they were doing were on your non-negotiable list. You may find that there's, a little pushback. You may find that your heart might hurt a little bit because, people aren't respecting you or respecting your boundaries the way you thought they would, because you thought they were your friend. You thought they had your back. You thought they were special, but they are showing you who they are. That has nothing to do with you. Give yourself some grace. Know that these things are possible, and remind yourself that you are not denying them. You're just prioritizing you. And they can still have some of those things, provided that you're still willing to give them. But now those things have boundaries around them. They have expectations that come with them. So give yourself a little bit of grace, because you are taking care of you first. And remember that you are trying to break those chains of obligation that have been holding you in bondage for years, so that you can achieve your goals and you can do the things that you need to do in your life. Okay. So I want you to remember that and give yourself some grace, because it is okay for you to want those things. But what's not okay is for people to continue to take advantage of you because they know that you'll let them. That's what has to change. And when you prioritize yourself, that's what happens. You begin to tell people, listen, this is what I want for myself, and the way things are going, I'm not able to get them. So I had to make some adjustments. And if you want to continue to have access to me, these are the boundaries. These are the limitations. These are the non-negotiables. Communicating it clearly and concisely so that it can be effective and land well with the people that you're talking to. All right, so the most important thing here is to give yourself some grace. One last time, the steps. Know what fill your cup, identify the limits and the non-negotiables and those boundaries that you need to set, and then thirdly, communicate those boundaries in a way that, people can get. You want to communicate those needs. What do you need to do and be your best, and to prioritize yourself and communicate that effectively and efficiently to the people around you? And then lastly, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. All right. that does it for today, guys. Listen, I understand. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I am a sister, I am a daughter, I am a friend, right? I am a marriage ministry leader. I wear a ton of hats and I know what burnout feels like. I know what it feels like to feel like I'm parenting adults. I know what it feels like to constantly put out fires that I did not start but are preventing me from doing things that I need to do. I'm a firefighter in everybody else's life, but I don't even have time to manage my own yard, that type of thing. I know exactly what that is like. The one thing I knew I had to do though was I had to get control of my calendar. I had to get control of my time. I had to identify space where I could be there for other people. I had to identify those times when I could fill my cup, and I had to identify what I needed to do to fill that cup. So in this next video, I am sharing with you my zero-sum calendar. I really feel like it's going to be helpful to you in setting up your day so that you know when you have those pockets of time where you can help someone, where you can you won't be busy and you won't be disrupting something that you need to do to help someone else or do something for someone else. You'll have it on your calendar and you'll know when you can actually, serve or whatever it is you need to do. You'll have that information available. So the next video that I'm sharing with you is all about my zero-sum calendar. It's going to help you really set yourself up for success when it comes to filling your cup first. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you back here again next week. Bye, guys.